We in the middle class or the upper St. Andrew people, when we hear of police killings in the ghetto, we always say, yes, man, is, them have guns and is bad man and all of that. But little did we know that it happened to us, and it happened in broad daylight. It's not something that we wanted, but I'm happy that it happened in daylight in a middle class community, so people knew exactly what the police are about.
Matthew had genius level IQ. He had 9 CXC subjects, passed CXC math in 4th form. And he went on to do university studies, and then he decided to do music, and he was qualified as a studio engineer. Then he took up golf and he got very good at it. He was a junior champion. Then he took up music, he got very good at it. He took a very early liking to the less fortunate, which again was why on that day he was just giving somebody a ride.
Based on the pathologist reports, he got 5 shots to the upper torso, which basically lacerated all his major organs. I can't recall if the pathologist report actually said, I don't know if it would say murder, but it suggested that he was murdered based on the positioning and the entry and exit of the bullet wounds. On the morning of January the 12th, 2013, I got a call from my mother to say that I need to come now because police has shut up Matthew's car. I didn't know, it kind of just threw me off totally. So on making my way to Acadia, I stopped and this guy, I stopped and asked him what happened, and he said, the police them just murder the youth them, just murder them. At this point I didn't tell him anything, I just asked him what happened. So after he said that, I said to him, well, one of them was my brother, and he says, oh, that must have been the brown one, he was still alive. Because I saw when they put him, I saw his body in the vehicle and he was still moving. And then I drove up to the scene expecting to see a car all shut up, because if it was a shootout, that's what I was expecting to see. I saw it being hoisted on a wrecker. I started asking, I was obviously frantic, I was saying, what happened? Nobody would answer me. I guess Indicom was there, police was there. Somebody pointed out that I need to go and speak to a particular set of police. When I approached them, they drove off. I assumed at that point that those were the police who were involved, and later found out that they were from the Constant Spring police station. Essentially what happened, Matthew got a call the morning from someone asking for a lift. It was 3 of them. They went to the police station to make the report. On the way back from the station, they trailed them and ambushed them. The report that we got was that the police had actually gone on the road already, told them to stay in, and cornered off the houses so that nobody could come out. So the incident happened around midday or closer to midday, and nobody was able to come out until around 3 o'clock when I had just arrived thereabouts. That's when persons actually were able to come out of their houses.
Matthew has no police record for any wrongdoing, not even a ticket.
Persons actually said that on passing they saw Matthew handing the car documents to the police. So it begs the question, if it was a shootout, why would you be having a conversation at that point? We never got his phone, his wallet, his license, the car documents. Nothing was ever recovered to this day.
This young man, how Matthew got connected with Grandspin, as I explained before, his father worked as a groundsman at the golf course, and so when both young boys you know, they were on the course. They just bonded.
Matthew just believed in friendship so much. He didn't care where you came
Side of the
from,
tracks you came
or
from.
you know, where you lived or what you did for a living, and you know, if he thought you were loyal to him, and he would be loyal to you.
It wasn't until after he died, persons actually came forward, and you know, we heard things like, you know, this little girl, she fainted, and she's like, what am I going to do now? I'm not going to pass my exam, because Matthew used to come and help her with her homework. There was this guy who came and said that one day Matthew was there, and he said his daughter was sick, and he said, you don't see your daughter, she looked like she got dead. So I said, you know, she's sick, but he has no money, he has nothing to take her to the hospital. And Matthew took them to a private doctor, paid for it, filled the prescription for the little girl, took them back home. I wanted to have a vigil at the site that it happened. I went through the relevant, I spoke with person to find out if I needed permits or anything, and I was told no, because it's a vigil, not a march or a protest or anything, and still they wouldn't have granted me. They told me no, I couldn't do it. Under what basis, I don't know. So at that point I decided to move the vigil to another location. However, I had to be at the location, because if persons turned up, I would have to tell them where to go. And so just about 5 of us were there, and a police car drove up, and in a very mean, harsh way, you know, basically run us from the location and tell us that we have to go. I suppose they're seeing that act as an act against them, anti-police, which it wasn't. It was just really to commemorate, you know, just to remember him by. And as far as I haven't had any confrontation with police thereafter. We've been having back and forth meetings with Indicom, who, for the most part, I think this is one case the last meeting I had with them was that they want to keep the case open, because everything that they have, their scientific evidence proves that Matthew was murdered. However, the lack of an eyewitness is what is stopping everything right now, because as I understand it, if an eyewitness doesn't come forward, then it will never go anywhere. Well, both JFJ and Indicom reported that persons did call in to say that they saw what happened, but nobody ever came in to give a formal report. And I do believe that's just simply out of fear, because the police who headed this operation is a known police who has done this sort of thing before several times. After the airing of that interview on Impact, I received a phone call from a lady. She introduced herself to me, and she said to me, they weren't after your brother, they were after my son. Her son was from an uptown community, and he was actually good friends with the guy who had made the report at the police station. And so much so that when it happened, when the incident occurred, people were calling her house thinking that it was her son that was killed. Matthew died on the 12th. Her son was killed by police 2 weeks after. He was being harassed by the police prior to. So she actually had him under house arrest, and he was killed 2 weeks after.
The system in general is completely corrupted and flawed. We don't think that kind of treatment should be handed out to anybody, regardless of education, regardless of where you come from. Something needs to change, and it needs to change from the highest level.
I think more needs to be done to help the victims. Why we have decided to actually come forward is people have to recognize that it doesn't matter where you're from. People tend to stereotype and, say, okay, well, you're killed by police, well, you're from the ghetto, you're up to no good, you did something to deserve it, basically. Matthew was from a good home. Matthew was educated. Matthew was, he was a good guy. Matthew could have been you.
It is not something that we feel strong about just because it's Matthew and he's related to us. It's happening in Jamaica, it's happening in the world, and we're only now starting to have consciousness of it as a mass of people, and only then as a mass of people. And I'm not saying group because group still sounds small. A mass of people coming together with a voice about the treatment towards people.
I used to be on the other side of the TV camera. I used to say it could have happened to me. We are one violation, one indiscretion from experiencing similar fate.